So, welcome to today's presentation. We're going to be talking about the business of Impact Lab and Pitch and talking through what this process is. So, to start with some introductions, for those who haven't worked with us before, Together Films is a UK-based social impact agency. We have both a sales agency side of the business and also a strategy and campaign management side. And Impact Together is our non-profit arm. This is the side of the business where we do sector-wide support services. We launched an initiative called the Climate Action Together Fund last year, which provided impact grants to documentary filmmakers. And over the last decade, as a business, we supported over about 500 filmmakers on various aspects of impact strategy, support services, campaign management for titles, including for Sama, the multi-BAFTA award-winning title from Wild Architeb, The Tale that was at Sundance, and Unrest that was also Oscar shortlisted, and many, many films in between. This programme is generously supported by the BFI Creative Challenge Fund, which is awarding National Lottery funding for this initiative. The programme is part of their sector-wide support services to address the gaps that are in our industry around film development and access opportunities. And the aim of this particular lab is to strengthen the commercially and impact viable UK features coming out at the moment. Feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A as we go through, and I'll kind of get to them at the end of this presentation. And if there are any further questions you have on this process, Thea and Georgia and our team will be available to support. And Thea's email is just thea@togetherfilms.org to be able to get through. So what do we mean by an impact film? Is the next question on everyone's lips. This particular project is specifically designed for scripted features. I'm just going to go to the next slide. The scripted feature films as opposed to documentary. Many of you may know us from a lot of our work in the documentary sector, but this particular lab and process is specifically for impact titles. But we take a very, very broad stroke to this. So I've put some example projects on the screen here that would be, in our minds, an impactful project. So when you think about the first time you watch something like Promising Young Woman, you think about the elements in that film that touch on elements of sexual assault in terms of the women who are featured, misogyny, kind of different elements of kind of power dynamics between young men and young women. A film like How to Have Sex is a really incredible kind of exploration of consent within kind of young adults. She Said, looking at the Harvey Weinstein experience, breaking apart that kind of journalism at the heart of that story. Just Mercy is an incredible film with Michael B. Jordan about the rise of a human rights lawyer in the US. And the campaign around that film, the impact campaign around that film, raised over $10 million to ensure that people had access to the right support and representation that they needed, and actually birthed an entire new NGO in America called Represent Justice, which many of my friends work at the moment. So impact doesn't have to mean grassroots. Impact doesn't have to mean a protest film. Impact doesn't have to mean documentary. It can very much mean scripted. And I cite Moonlight a lot in references about this work because I think that is a beautiful title that looks at the element of LGBT identity, especially within young Black men in America right now. And really was a beautiful sort of awakening into that issue for many audience members. And it's not a film you would maybe say, well, that's an impact film. But when you think about the audience reaction, when you think about audiences who saw that film and how they commented on the film, it very much had a deep meaning to members of the LGBT community and also those outside of the community when people were watching it. And then the classic one that everybody thinks about, Erin Brockovich, is a wonderful film about activism. And it's one of Julia Roberts' kind of best performances that she's done sort of as an actress. So we're looking for films that are aiming to deeply move an audience, to open your eyes about an issue that maybe people haven't understood before, and to really spark conversations kind of in the world. And we are totally open, flexible as to what that looks like in your narratives, what that looks like in your films, and how that you have kind of articulated that in your particular scripts. So we're open to any genre within a scripted narrative format. This particular scheme is not eligible for documentary features. There are a number of different schemes that have supported documentaries in the past, and I would recommend anybody who's listening in who works in the doc space to look at the company I used to work for, Doc Society, who have a wealth of resources resources for documentary features and shorts to kind of see how you can get support there. So this particular lab is looking at the role of scripted feature films that have a wide audience reach and hopefully can bring really important messages to a number of audiences around the world. And we're looking at any impact theme. So it may be environmental issues, it may be women's rights, it might be racial justice, whichever theme you think is most important in the moment. We will be assessing that as part of our kind of application round of what is the theme to the film, what's the creative development of the film, and how urgent that theme might feel in the kind of current tense. So we'd love to see stuff that are reflective of the issues and the problems we see in the world today, and how we can react to them in the moment. And with everything happening in the world geopolitically right now, there are a number of problems and issues that I think films can address for public audiences. So feel free to kind of put in applications for any kind of theme of film, and we're welcome to consider that. So let's then get into the actual status of the project and what you will be applying to. So the Business of Impact Lab and Pitch project is a 5-month development lab for scripted features that are at least at the script stage. So this can't be just an idea in a paragraph. You have to have at least a draft script. It can be a very rough script if it needs to be, but you must have a draft script at the point of application. We will be selecting 10 projects to go through this process and up to 2 producers per project. So if you want to go on it with one of your production team, 2 of you are allowed to be on this lab with us. And the idea is to strengthen both the commercial strategy for your film, the impact design, and the market readiness. So we are assessing the sort of business plan for this project. What is the finance plan that you're envisaging? What is your route to kind of market? What's your distribution and sales plan? Alongside how this film can make impact in the world. And if you haven't done anything impactful before, you're not quite sure what that kind of might look like, this could be anything from an educational screening tour, it could be policy events, it could be fundraising off the back of a release. I saw the other day at the Westfield pop-up for Wicked that they partnered with Bernardo's to raise money for them. There's so many different ways in which impact can be realised, and we can work through with you what that might look like. Even if you have no concept right now of what an impact campaign could be around your film, that is okay. We want you to bring the best films, the best narratives, and then we are there to help you kind of turn them into brilliant kind of impact releases. The program will include 10 virtual workshops that will take place between February and June, and it is absolutely mandatory that all members of the cohort join those virtual sessions. So when you're looking through the guidelines, please have a look at that. We know that everybody's schedules are busy and time is tight, but to really make this kind of a group cohort feeling and have everybody working together, you must attend all of those virtual sessions. And we will have visiting speakers, experts coming in, especially from the US market, and you'll really, really want to meet with those people and get your projects in front of them. And then we're building up to an amazing live pitching summit that will happen in June 2026. It will be the week commencing the 23rd of June. And what we will be doing as our team, so Georgia and Thea on my team are kind of co-leading this with me. We will be assessing your projects, looking at the gaps that you have, the financing gaps, the kind of partnership gaps, and we will collaboratively be kind of connecting with partners and funders on your behalf to bring them to this live pitching forum. So if you have a gap in your finance plan still by June, so if you haven't yet closed your finance, we'll be bringing people into the room that might be philanthropists, impact investors, foundations, US funding partners to hopefully get you closer to green light. And if you have managed to get your film fully funded during the first half of next year, you can then pitch for your impact funds. So this might be an educational travel kind of requirement. This might be high profile events across the country. We can help design what that campaign looks like and then put together a budget suitable for those financiers. So at the point of application, you cannot be fully funded, but if you do get to fully financed on the production during the development process, that is okay. We can use the pitching moment to pitch for funds for impact campaign delivery instead. So by the end of the program, hopefully you will have a kind of more developed project and be able to deliver an innovative financing structure for your film. We know that funds are extremely tight right now in the UK market, that our key partners at the BFI and BBC Films and Film 4 and others are oversubscribed constantly from applications from producers. So we really want to welcome in a new batch of financiers to come around these films and have a structured pitching forum for them to kind of come in. And we can give you insight and advice onto how that can work within your finance plan. So if you've never worked with philanthropy, if you've not worked with foundations or impact investors, how do you speak with them? What is the process? How do you pitch them? And what are they looking for in a finance plan, in a waterfall scenario? We can talk all of that through with you so you feel very, very equipped to discuss with those financiers and kind of meet them where they need to be. And then in your distribution planning, whether you're aiming for pre-sales in your finance plan or looking at acquisition later, how do you embed those impact ideals into that distribution strategy? We can walk you through all of that as well during the lab process. So hopefully you will have more clarity on how to kind of navigate this new world, increase confidence on building relationships with these funders, and also a network of partners around you. So if you have a film about human rights, maybe it's Amnesty International. If you're doing climate change, maybe it's Greenpeace. It's finding a network of stakeholders that we will reach out to on your behalf for the pitching process to come around your film and get excited to help you in that process. So throughout the lab, there will be tailored mentorship from myself and my team. At Together Films, we have a range of different case studies we can pull from internally, but also bringing in industry advisors and experts from across the field. So Leon Thompson will be coming in to talk about contractual terms on this kind of new kind of financing. Safri's will be doing a sort of update on the kind of tax credit application, how that can balance with these new kind of funds. And we'll also have visiting speakers of producers from the US market who've been using these tools and tricks more frequently. They don't have the luxury of things like the BFI and BBC Films and Film 4 in the US market. So they've had to be more creative over the last 30, 40 years. So bringing in those producers to kind of help assess how you can apply these different ideals in the UK market. You're going to get a ton of tools and resources. Georgia and Theo and my team have been working diligently over the summer, creating a range of materials across pitching kind of deck examples, budget materials, impact, kind of objective statements, outreach templates, a database for your kind of project management. So at the end of the project, you will literally have every piece of paperwork you might need to outreach these kind of funders, to secure partnerships that will help a campaign really thrive. And also kind of get you out to market. And then the real kind of benefit in doing this as a group situation is you'll have a cohort community of other producers going through this at the same time. So we really think there'll be a lot of peer-to-peer learning across the course. We say in our office all the time, no question is a silly question. Anything that comes up through the process, just ask, and hopefully we can find a speaker or kind of an expert to come and answer those questions. And you'll learn from each other how to pitch in this way to these new kind of financiers if you haven't worked with them before, and just share ideas on kind of impact planning as we go through. So hopefully you sort of learn together, grow together, and hopefully all raise further funding together throughout this process in a group environment. So what do we need from you? So as I mentioned before, we will have a virtual workshop every 2 weeks running through from February to June in advance of the pitch. Those sessions will be 2 hours each and will include references from our team and also these expert speakers. And in between sessions, we will be setting you some homework. So it is a structured development process, this lab, which really requires you to commit formally to not just showing up for the speaking events and kind of listening, but really kind of contributing back with some materials. So we'll be together developing an impact distribution campaign strategy deck. This will be a form of your pitch deck for your film, but something that is suitable for philanthropic and impact investors, which is more advanced in terms of how you think about the issue, how you think about audience engagement. It's new language, it's new materials that are required. You'll also be creating a one pitch, kind of one pager for partners and funders. There'll be a budget document we're going to put up together. Some financiers allow you to put some kind of additional line items for impact in your production finance plan. Others do not. So we'll have kind of variable versions of that. We're going to be working collaboratively on these lists of funders and partners. And then a really sexy title, the Evaluation Log Frame Matrix. What are the outcomes and the kind of impact of this film when it comes out in the world? So when you're raising for a traditional finance plan, making the film is the outcome, and then hoping it will be distributed depending on whether or not you have pre-sales or kind of acquisitions afterwards. For impact investors and philanthropists, they want to see different outcomes or additional outcomes. So this might be the number of school children that you have engaged with the production. Are you working in partnership with groups like Interfilm for that kind of engagement? We recently worked on a project with Letitia Wright, the actress from Black Panther, on her directorial debut, Highway to the Moon. And it's based on a very personal experience. One of her friend's brothers was murdered in London, and she took that grief and that loss and translated it into a script that she wanted to make, which came out this year on the festival circuit. And when we first met with that team, it was very, very important for Letitia that the film reach younger audiences, especially school-age students. So we convened a educational screening tour across the UK to be able to literally sit down with a group of young children at a time and say, what was your reaction to this film? What are you going to take away from this? How is this going to impact your day-to-day life? And she did a live stream last week in association with an amazing partner, speaking to 10,000 children simultaneously to kind of get that message out in different ways. So if you don't even understand what the possibilities might be for your project right now, don't worry. We're here to help you think about those different ideas. And if you have no idea how to cost that up or budget for that or kind of what it might be, again, we can think about that with you. Will you be traveling on the road as a director for kind of 50 different tour stops? Will you be doing a massive festival run? Thinking about all the kind of line items that you might need in advance so that you can hopefully secure philanthropic impact funding to cover those costs, and it's not a pressure on you as a producer and or your distributors or sales agents, depending on who you're working with at that time. So in order to get the best out of this process with us, we need your time commitment to make sure that you are kind of keeping up on that kind of process. The in-person pitching day will take place the week commencing the 23rd of June. And again, it is mandatory that all participants have to be in London for that day. So we very, very much welcome applications from across the country. With thanks to the BFI, all of your travel and accommodation costs will be covered to get you to London for that week. But you must be here in person in order to deliver the pitch to financiers. And each project will have a slot during the day. And we will be inviting specific potential funders and partners for your film, for your issue, to hear your pitch. And so you must be available in that week to be able to be in London. So we estimate the time allocation is approximately 57 hours. It's a very specific number because we plan in very specific ways. But obviously, if you as a production team want to go further, if you want to be doing more research yourself or kind of more kind of drafting of materials, that's obviously open to you. But we estimate it's going to be approximately 57 to 60 hours of your time throughout this process to get all the deliverables together and to make the most of it from your side as well. So really want to make sure that you are getting that time commitment kind of coming through. So looking then at the overall timeline of the project. So applications are open right now. This is the information webinar that you're attending. And this will be also shared on YouTube tomorrow morning. So anyone who's watching this back on YouTube, hello, thanks for being here. The deadline for applications is the 2nd of January, which is very soon. So if you have any questions, anything else at all that you want to ask about the process before you submit, please do get in touch with Thea. Her email address is thea, Thea, @togetherfilms.org with any questions. And again, no question is a silly question. If you want to get any more guidance, please do write to her, and we'll also come to some questions at the end of this webinar. But it's unlikely we'll be able to accept any late submissions, so please make sure it's got in time. The application form also is designed to be pretty simple in terms of what we need from you. So please do have a look on the website, togetherfilms.org/lab. That is togetherfilms.org/lab to find a link to the application form so you can have a look at the questions in advance and make sure you have all your materials ready. We'll be doing interviews with each of the teams the week commencing the 19th of January. It's really important that we have a wonderful cohort of producers who will be collaborative, sharing different levels of experience with each other. And so we do want to meet you all before we decide on the final few. And in the application form, there is an optional field to upload a short video of yourself and why you want to be on this program. I would highly recommend, if you can, to do that because it gives a good sense of who you are. But it can just be literally on your phone, just a quick video that you record on your phone and uploading. Do not worry about the production quality of that short video. It can be very loose. And then we'll be informing people of the final decision the week commencing the 26th of January. So do look out for emails in that week. We start the programme on the 10th of February. And then we'll have these bi-weekly sessions virtually running all the way through June. We'll have an in-person pitch practice day. I think it's really vital that we all get to meet in person before we do the live pitch, and also so you can practice sort of pitching your project to the room with all your materials, clips, whatever you want to show in advance of the main day. And then the main pitching summit process will happen again that same week. With hundreds-ish, we don't know the final number of people who will be attending as yet until we do the invitationals, but a really sizable room of people who will be here to hear your pitch in its finality. The programme will officially close the 30th of June, that next week, but we will also be asking for an evaluation report 6 months later to see what the outcomes were of the programme. So did you secure funding? Did you secure partnerships? How did your film get through? Did you get to shoot? Is it coming out to premiere? So we're going to be able to follow up with you about 6 months later to get additional information from the field. So a little bit more on this pitching summit. So it will be a live pitch. All participants must make themselves available in London for that particular week. But the rest of the virtual sessions, you can be anywhere. Tune in from the beach if you'd like to. The pitch summit, you have to be in person. We will not be allowing zooming into the pitch. It has to be in person. So please make sure you're available for that. So this room will be full of a variety of different stakeholders that you may not have yet had interactions with. So this might be new financiers outside of the traditional, in the UK lens, people like the BFI, impact investors, philanthropic supporters. This might also be NGOs or charities, depending on the theme of your film. We may also invite, depending on the status of where you're at, distributors, if you're considering pre-sales, to kind of welcome them in. If you still haven't got a sales agent, we might be inviting agents to come in. So it's really going to be customized on where you are at with the status of your project and what you need to invite in the parties who can hopefully get your project to greenlight and get it to production. So we'll be speaking with everybody at the start of the process. What do you think you need right now? For everybody applying, as you're not allowed to apply if you're fully funded, you will, most of all, you need money. So the first thing will be, who might be those financiers, and can we make a list of new people that you won't have met before? But there's lots of other non-financial partners that we think could also be a benefit. So we want to make sure we fill the room with lots of good yes people who are going to want to support your work in this time. This is a really rare access point to connect kind of social impact driven scripted projects with this field of stakeholders. And from our understanding, it's the first pitching event like this for scripted impact projects, definitely in the UK, probably in the world. So we're really excited to bring together these new partners into the room at that point. So it's going to be work for you as well. So with thanks to the BFI, they will be covering a contribution towards your time taking part in this process. So each individual person will be able to qualify for a stipend of £1,425 for your time. So if there are two of you from your project will receive £2,850 towards the cost of your time on the process. We want to make sure that the time that you are taking part in this is being covered by those costs. And then for access support for anyone outside of London, and again, we very much are excited to see applications from those creators living outside the city centre. Your travel and accommodation to London will be covered by the BFI. And if you have any additional access needs, BSL, captioning, alternative formats, please let our team know, and we will absolutely put in provision for whatever you need to make your contribution to this programme as successful as possible. So do let us know if there's anything we can do to make it better for you. So who can apply? You must be a UK-based producer, which could include those working on a valid visa in the UK. You must be over 18 and not in full-time education. And you must have at least one credited producing role on a scripted feature with UK distribution. So this is in line with the BFI's remit of emerging and established producers. This is not an early entrant program. We will not be covering the basics of how to produce a film. This is for emerging and established talent that have made at least one credited producing role, and that can be one person on your team, doesn't have to be everybody on the team, but somebody on the production must have at least one credited producing role on a scripted feature that has had UK distribution in the past. So please do kind of look at your team's credentials before you submit. It's a scripted narrative feature film in active development. Effectively, it can't just be a paragraph on a page. We need to see a draft script of some kind. Some early stage development finance coming in, but this can be producer finance. So it could just be that you put in some funding yourself. It doesn't have to be external finance, but we're not looking for projects that are so early you don't know the full shape of the film yet. But that draft can be a draft script. So do not worry if you're still a few rounds away from having a kind of polished script. It must be capable of qualifying as British as per the BFI guidelines, i.e., you can also qualify for the British tax credit process. And intending to shoot in 2026 or 2027. Obviously, timelines are very, very variable, but the intention is that you're hoping to shoot within the next 24 months and that you can receive a BBSC certification of 18 or below upon completion. And what we're going to be looking at is, does the narrative have a clear social impact theme? And we are theme agnostic. It could be environmental issues, women's rights, racial justice, queer identity, but does it have a social impact theme at the heart of the project? Is there strong creative vision? Do we think this is going to be a great film? That's really, really important. So is there strong creative vision in the way that the film is being conceived that matches the sort of impact that you're kind of aiming for? And then the commercial and impact viability, does the business case for the film make sense? So if someone comes in pitching a $65 million action movie, this might not be the lab for you. But if you're pitching a £4 million drama, maybe this is the one for you. So we want to make sure that the projects coming through this process are going to value from the program, and that we're going to be able to have a really great value add by introducing you to potential new financiers and partners, and that the impact you might be able to deliver on the end of this process is going to be great for audiences both in the UK and internationally as it goes through. How to apply. So the application form is available on our website at togetherfilms.org/lab. Togetherfilms.org/lab. You must submit by Friday the 2nd of January at midnight, and it is unlikely we'll be accepting any late submissions. So please, please, please do not email at 11 p.m. on Friday the 2nd asking for an extension. It's unlikely we'll be able to grant it. And we're very, very aware that the Christmas holidays is in between this period. So if you have any questions that are not answered in today's conversation, please do reach out to Thea on our team. Her email address is on screen right now, thea@togetherfilms.org, with any additional questions, so that we can answer you before the Christmas holidays kicks in. Some of our team will be available, but if we get like 1,000 questions the day before on New Year's Day, which is a bank holiday, it may be difficult to get back to you. So please ask your questions early if possible. In order to apply, you must have a script in some form for the submission, but again, this can be super draft or super rough, but we need to see that shape of that film and how it's going to come around to review it. Some form of treatment or pitch deck, again, this can be subject to your own design, and then key project details, such as the crew who are going to be on this, the key kind of creative team, a draft finance plan of some kind, and a little bit of information about what you hope to achieve during the process. And that little video of yourself would be gratefully appreciated in the application if you have time to do it. It can just be a minute saying hi on your phone and giving us some more information. If you need any form of alternative documentation, please reach out to Thea. And the interviews will be held the 19th of January, that week of the 19th of January. So if you know you're going to be away, please let Thea know in advance as well, in case we can schedule an interview at a different time. But hopefully we can speak to everybody on the phone that week of the 19th of Jan.